Good evening and welcome to tonight's Monroe City Council meeting. This is the regular study session meeting for Tuesday, October 4th, 2022. The time right now is 7 p.m. Will you please call the roll?
Davis, Gamble remote, Fisher remote, and Scarborough.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to try to hit dismiss on this computer rather than the one to my left. There we go. And we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, and that item would be Pledge of Allegiance from Councilmember Fisher. So Councilmember Fisher, you are remote. Please lead us on the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. All right, the next item that we have on the agenda this evening is public comments. Do we have anybody who signed up for public comments? If there's anybody here that would like to provide public comments this evening, please go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, I don't see anybody. If you are online and would like to provide public comments, please go ahead and raise your hand. There's a little hand icon in the middle of the screen down at the bottom of your Zoom window, or hit *9 if you're on the phone. All right, there being no public comments, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda. This would be announcements and presentations with a Sky Valley Food Bank update with Deborah Knight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am pleased to introduce Matthew Campbell, who is the director with the Sky Valley Food Bank, and he is going to be giving the community an update and the city council an update on what is going on at the food bank. So welcome, Matthew, and we're pleased to have you here with us this evening.
Thank you for the invitation, the opportunity to stand before you. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself, my background, and an update on the food bank itself. First of all, my family. I've lived in Monroe for about 18 years now, pretty heavily involved with the community. I've served on a number of boards, including Little League Baseball, Legends Baseball. I serve currently on the Big Heart, Big Smile Foundation board. My wife of 24 years now also. And I have two boys who go to the Monroe School District. One's a senior and one is a freshman who Coach Kitty knows quite well. So good to see you, Coach. So I've been doing hunger relief work for about 16 years. I worked at Northwest Harvest for 9 years, where I ran events across the state. And most recently, I came from HopeLink, where I served as the director of food programs there. I remember seeing a social media post about 5 years ago when Cindy was recognized as being the new director there. And I thought to myself, I want that job. So when Cindy announced her retirement, it was time for me to apply. And this is my community. I've lived here for so long. I've been so involved in this community. It was a natural fit for me. And I'm really excited to be here. I've been here for about 5 months now, learning a lot of the ins and outs of working in a smaller community than working in Seattle. Is much different than working in Kirkland, but I've loved it so far. So that's a little bit about myself. The food bank itself, I was at HopeLink when the pandemic started, but much like all of us, we had to pivot when the pandemic started. In March of 2020, for about the first 3 months, the food bank went to a home delivery service where clients signed up ahead of time, and we had very limited volunteers, but mostly staff pre-packed boxes and delivered to members of the community wherever they might live. About 6 months later, we went to a drive-through model where clients actually came in and we loaded their cars full of food. We did that for about a year. And I say we, I mean the food bank. I wasn't here at that time. About a year ago, we went back to our full shopping model, though a little bit different. So we had 6-foot markings on the floor and encourage people to wear masks, but it was a full shopping model. And we've been doing that for the past year. So we're excited that we're doing that. It's all about choice for our clients. We want to provide them that choice. As you would imagine, since the pandemic began, our numbers have skyrocketed no matter what number you look at. Clients, food, distributed, everything. I'm going to share a couple numbers with you. In August of 2020, we served 2,498 individuals, so 2,500 individuals. Last year in August of 21, we served just under 3,100 individuals. This past August, we served 4,100 individuals. So we increased 1,000 individuals in the past year, which is astonishing. The pounds of food, just to give you some context as well, went from 51,000 pounds of food distributed to 103,000 pounds of food distributed. So it's good that we had more food to distribute since we had so many more clients. I can't talk about this without talking about our donors, whether it's the state, the city, churches, community members, individuals. Donors continue to answer the call every time. Huge part of my job is education. Everyone wants to do food drive and donate in November and December, right? Those are great times. It's not so great right now. It's not so great in the summer. So talking to folks about that is really important. So we have choice for our clients throughout the whole entire year. Another large part of my job is just connecting with the community. I've had the pleasure of just looking around the room, meeting at least 4 or 5 of you in this room for the first time over the past 4 or 5 months, and it's been great. I've met with St. Vincent de Paul today. I meet with Take the Next Step next week. I met with Cascade Community Church, and making those connections is really important to my work and to this community. None of us do everything, but all of us together can make a huge difference. So making those connections has been really important and amazing and uplifting to see all the amazing things this community does for each other. The last thing, talking about numbers, is the cost of food. Again, no surprise to any of you, the cost of food over the past 2 years is up about 22% for us. And that's a huge number. So again, I talk about donors. Can't say enough about how important our donors are to us and continue to be month after month. We'll talk a little bit about our backpack program. For those of you who don't know, we provide weekend backpacks for kids in 5 schools right now. This is an incredibly important program to us. So, you know, there is breakfast and lunch provided for a large number of students during the school week, but on weekends, a lot of children don't have food. So when we started the school year a year ago, we started out distributing about 120 backpacks a week. I say backpacks, it's actually bags. We can't afford backpacks, but it's bags of food. And the food includes 2 breakfasts, 2 lunch, 2 dinners, and a bunch of snacks. By the end of the school year, we're distributing 280 bags a week. So that need, again, skyrocketed. And without our volunteers packing those bags every week, it's really labor intensive. Those volunteers and the donors who provide the food to us need to acknowledge that. We blew our budget out of the water in spending. Again, cost of food has skyrocketed and the numbers have skyrocketed. And in June of this year, the school district came to us for the first time and asked us to provide weekend backpacks all summer long. So it's not something we'd ever done before, we're prepared for, or budgeted for. Of course, we're going to say yes. It's not as many, it was about 60 bags a week, but we were able to do that, and it's really important to us. And I went to my board, and of course, it was a no-brainer to be able to provide food for kids throughout the summer. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit about, I'm sure most of you probably know that we're doing an addition at the food bank. It's been a process. I've built a couple of facilities when I was at HopeLink. We built one in Shoreline, one in Redmond. Nothing has been quite like this experience. Cindy started this process 2.5 years ago, and we're getting closer. Every day, we're getting a little bit closer, and that's the positive thing. The quick synopsis is we're adding on to our building, which is going to provide a lobby for clients to wait inside. We've never had that. So imagine the pouring rain, our clients are waiting outside for their appointment. We're going to have a lobby for them. We're going to have a computer for them to be able to look up WorkSource or whatever they need for that. We're also going to have a multi-purpose room, which we'll be able to pack food in, and it's more space for that. And lastly, most importantly, it's going to double the size of our shopping space, which is really cool because it's pretty crowded in there now. For those of you who've been there, it could be tight and everyone has a shopping cart with them. So by doubling the space, we can put more food out, we can serve more clients, we can expand our hours, and we're really excited about all those things. We're hoping to start this year. Like I said, we're getting a little bit closer, and it's going to be about a 12-week project when we're all done. So there's some quick updates on the food bank, a little bit about myself. I'm happy to answer any questions you all might have. I invite anybody in this room or anywhere around to come down and visit us anytime. We'd love to have visitors and give tours, school groups, churches, anyone is welcome anytime.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Council members, do you have any questions or comments?
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Councilmember Fulcher.
Waiting for my red. There we go. Thank you very much for what you're doing. I did meet you a few months ago when Cindy came in and introduced you. So I'm very excited to see you here doing your first report. The food bank was a big part of my life 15, 20 years ago. I was there every week. You guys are just faithful to what you do, and I'm appreciative of everything you do. And I'm pretty excited about your addition. So good luck on that. We're looking forward to coming and doing your ribbon cutting or just being able to congratulate you as soon as you're able to serve more people. And yeah, waiting in the rain, no fun. So I'm glad you're adding that on.
Yeah, we're very excited. Thank you.
Okay, and I echo what the council members have shared. I really appreciate all the work that you and the food bank do and everybody that donates their time and resources to that. So thank you so very much.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, the next item we have on our agenda this evening is under announcements and presentations, item 5.2. This is Canine Sam's retirement. Chief Jolly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. We are pleased as can be to have two special events that we're able to celebrate tonight in front of the council. There's one of our guests now. He's making a late entrance. I'd like to acknowledge the men and women of the Monroe Police Department who have come out tonight in full force to help us with these two celebrations. I'm very proud of the men and women here, as well as some of our retired members and friends and family. Devin Tucker and Sam are retiring as a team, and I'll turn it over to Devin really quick to introduce his family and friends.
All right, thank you, everybody, for being here. Sister, grandfather here, some near dear friends. Here. Got some other great friends here that help here support me.
And who's this guy?
This is Sam.
Okay.
Sam.
Right on. So glad to be able to be here tonight again. Welcome the family and friends that Devin's brought with him, some of his brothers from the Freemasons, and of course, this fellow who's going to enjoy a nice retirement living with his handler, and they're not going to be separated, they'll be together. Just a little bit about them. On September 1st, 2022, Canine Sam retired from duty as a Monroe Police Department narcotics canine. Paired with his handler, Officer Devin Tucker, since June of 2017, Canine Sam was selected as a Monroe Police Department canine from Pacific Coast Canines in Custer, Washington. They've had a lot of remarkable finds, assisted many departments across this region, and have been an invaluable resource for us as well as local law enforcement. In their time as a canine team, they provided narcotics canine applications to many of these agencies across the Puget Sound. Canine Sam and Officer Tucker's most memorable application, I hope Sam remembers, was in May 2020, which helped seize and locate more than 2 kilos of heroin, over 900 fentanyl pills, over 1,000 grams of meth, $22,000 in cash, and 2 firearms. The repercussions that result from these seizures are amazing, and the future crime they prevent is untold. Please join me in thanking Canine Team Officer Tucker and Canine Sam for their 5 years of dedicated service to our police department and community.
So before we present you with your plaque, Devin, I think it's appropriate that we acknowledge that it's really about Sam.
Yep.
As we say. But I want to acknowledge that for 5+ years, you served honorably on the streets, Canine Sam and you side by side, working to get drugs off the streets. And in that time, you formed an inseparable bond, one that shall not be broken. But I want you to remember, you may not be working side by side with him every day, but he's always going to be waiting at home for you to be your best friend and cheer you up. So remember, he's earned this retirement. He deserves it. Celebrate your accomplishments and continue to. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I know.
As a small token of our appreciation, we would like to present this to Devin Tucker and Sam. In their time as a canine team, they provided the canine applications to many of these law enforcement agencies, as I mentioned. I've talked about the most memorable occasion that you two have had together, and we'll present this to you as a token of our appreciation for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Yeah, so thank you too. I just want to thank the department. I want to thank the department, all the support, all the supervisor groups for all the support they gave me during this time. Patrol, every time I needed to go help in their agency or go out on a call, they had to take the burden and be down in their body. So I really appreciate everything that the patrol team did to assist me in helping him be successful. Thanks to my family and friends for being there and supporting everybody. And appreciate everything you all are doing. Thank you all for supporting this program. It's invaluable. And I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it's gonna be a long time before he gets it out of his system and he's done working. Just like any good cop, he's always got it in their blood, right? And so he's gonna continue on and sniffing people randomly as he goes throughout life. Wow. Again, Mayor Thomas and council, thank you very much. Our next event is recognizing our newest sergeant, Derek Leather. Can you come forward? Derek, if you'll just take a minute and introduce your family and friends.
Yep, I have my son Major, father Greg, stepmother Yvonne, beautiful wife Jessica, gorgeous daughter Trina.
Outstanding. We're very happy to have them there. And again, your family from both the city, the department, our retired cadre of people. Very proud of this turnout that we have here. Thank you to Judge Ness for agreeing to officiate this ceremony. It is my pleasure to introduce Sergeant Derek Leather. Sergeant Derek Leather began his career with the city of Monroe in 2013 as a police officer. Sergeant Leather has served in several capacities within our department to include patrol, FTOs, UAS drone pilot, fleet management, EVOC instructor, which is the high-speed driving and emergency vehicle operations, and SWAT. He has distinguished himself as a community leader, helping plan and coordinate a number of benefits benefiting the community members and charitable causes in Monroe and beyond. I want to say thank you to him especially for coaching youth football for the YMCA, as well as the Boys and Girls Club. And though we won't talk about his record as a head coach, his heart is definitely in the right place. Most recently, his efforts coordinating our wellness initiatives have demonstrated his commitment to the health and longevity of all department members and their family. A typical promotion goes through a series of events in which we do written tests, oral boards, various things, and you get placed on a waiting list. Derek went through this process. He served his time well, and he ranked on a list. What distinguishes him and makes him different is he spent approximately a year as an acting sergeant with the unknown outcome as to whether he was going to actually be named as a sergeant permanently. This was a little frustrating, I would imagine, but Derek, not once did he complain. Did he get upset? Did he let the unknown and the back and forth interrupt his attitude, his commitment to this department and to the city? And for that, he went above and beyond what most people normally do. Sergeant Leather's family and wife are here, as we mentioned. And Jesse, if you can come up here, we have a little event for you, if you would. Now, in all fairness, we did do a practice run, right? And we've never done this before. Now, I don't know if Major got stuck during this practice or what. Jesse, I'm proud to recognize you before the council. I value your commitment to the Monroe Police Department. Before Jesse pins on his new badge as a police sergeant, I would like to invite the judge to come up and administer the oath of office.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Derek Leather,
I, Derek Leather,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and the laws of the state of Washington
and the Constitution and the laws of the state of Washington
and the ordinances of the city of Monroe,
and the ordinances of the city of Monroe,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of sergeant
of sergeant
for the City of Monroe Police Department
for the City of Monroe Police Department
to the best of my abilities.
to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations. You were-
Thank you, Your Honor. Now to make this official, we'll go ahead and commemorate this with pinning on. Outstanding. Also, a new thing that we're doing at this time, as he has achieved the rank of sergeant, we are going to present you with a certificate of commission acknowledging that you have been commissioned as a sergeant with the City of Monroe Police Department, signed by the mayor and myself. Congratulations. All yours.
I just want to take a second to say thank you to my family. Wouldn't be able to do this or be here today if it wasn't for my wonderful wife. She has to pick up all the slack for the call outs, the late nights, the constant overtime, the specialties, all the other stuff that I have to do. She picks up the slack with little to no complaining, and she keeps the house running. So thank you, Jess, for doing that. And then to all the coworkers, past, former, current, thank you. I wouldn't be here without the support of all the former coworkers I have, both City Hall and Monroe Police Department. So other than that, thank you so much, Chief. And thank you, guys.
All right, thank you very much and congratulations. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, and that'll be council member reports. So we'll start off online with Councilmember Gamble. Councilmember Gamble.
No, just the only thing I was gonna say, I know.
Councilmember Gamble, just a second, I'm sorry.
You're good.
All right, go ahead, Councilmember Gamble.
No, just sorry, missed last week, was out of town on business, so I didn't have the opportunity to follow up, Mayor, in person, and was able to read the proclamation in for hydrocephalus. I just wanted to thank you in person, as I did the night that we read it in. Means a lot to that community. My sister does some of the marketing for the local chapter, and so that proclamation made it onto their social media and out there, and it was fantastic. It is as I stated on the record last time for the council members that were present, the walk that they had is the highest grossing one in the country, right here in the Seattle area. So just great to help support that. And then even the school district, the Overlake, did a Dig for the Cure match the last day of September, and raised over $3,000 at a high school volleyball match for hydrocephalus as well. So just truly appreciate the support again from the council and from yourself on that proclamation. It does mean a lot and helps bring awareness to the cause. So thank you again. And then the only other thing would be is Friday night, homecoming night, for all those that are around. Yeah, homecoming. So make it up to the football field for all the festivities. It's a one football town team, one high school town. It is quite the cultural event if you've never been. So anyway, that's it.
All right, thank you very much, Councilmember Gamble. Councilmember Fisher, go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing I have is I attended the school levy Q&A at Park Place earlier this week. A lot of the same information that they presented to us, but it was kind of good to be in a different setting and be around some different parents and a little bit more of a casual forum to hear some of the questions and answers that they had. So it was very informative, and it was worth attending, and that was all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Councilmember Davis, go ahead.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fulcher, go ahead.
Wednesday night at Citizens Academy, we had our SWAT night, and that was a lot of fun. I know that Councilmember Kenny will tell us more about it. I'm not going to steal her glory like some people do. And then also thank you. On Thursday night, Mayor Thomas and I had we were at the Snohomish County Cities dinner, and there was a lot of good networking and some information from about what are they going to do with the is it House 1590 funding. Anyway, it's the affording housing, I never can. do it.
Affordable housing.
Thank you. Affordable housing money that we're receiving as an area. I'll let him do the big report. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Scarborough, go ahead.
It's nice to see him start the pedestrian project at the fairgrounds. Be nice to have it there in place next year. I'm sure it was missed this year, but it'd be nice to have it next year. It's nice to see the progress on the PUD property on Turney Way up there and coming along. And nice to see the progress around town.
Thank you, Councilmember Scarborough. Councilmember Kenny, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So most of you know I'm involved with the Monroe Historical Society, and we are working hard, preparing a really wonderful tour on Saturday, October 22nd at the IOOF Cemetery on Old Owen Road. This is going to be a community-free walking tour of the cemetery up there, where we will stop at the grave sites of some of Monroe's settlers, some notable individuals in the community, and trying to impart some historic knowledge of some of our early important people in the Valley. So I'm really looking forward to that. I encourage all of you to join us. It's a free, family-friendly event. 2 p.m. is the start time. We think it'll take about an hour and a half. So we're working really hard on that and see it as a very much Monroe event to try and educate people about our early history. So thank you. Saturday, October 22nd at 2 p.m. walking tour, and a variety of board members will be hosting. For instance, I'll have 2 or 3 different sites. Other board members will have others. And I expect Ms. Hassert to be there, of course, because she has been a volunteer with our group for many years. But I think it's really going to be interesting. And I encourage you all to come if you can. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Councilmember Kenny. All right. And I do, before we move on, Councilmember Hanford's not here this evening, and I was remiss earlier to say that Councilmember Hanford had mentioned he wouldn't be here this evening at an earlier meeting. Unless there's objection, we'll consider his absence as excused. Seeing no objection, we'll go ahead and move forward then in the agenda. Thank you, council members, for the reports, and we're going to go to the city administrator report, extended agenda. Deborah Knight, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a reminder that the City Council Legislative Affairs Committee meeting is moving to the October 18th date. So we will not have a meeting on the 11th, but will the following week. For the regular business meeting, we have accounts payable, payroll, meeting minutes, ordinance 25/2022 for motorized scooters going in for second read, and then a motion to add a business meeting to the October 18th study session to allow for action at that meeting. We will have our first public hearing on the 2023-2024 budget. And then new business, we have the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee appointments and waiving shutoffs for November and December from our finance department. And then the regular department reports. Looking ahead then to the actual October 18th agenda, the Human Services and Finance Committee meeting has been canceled, but we will be having legislative affairs. We're covering our legislative priority recommendations, comprehensive plan update, and continued updates to council rules of procedure. Looking ahead then for the consent agenda, we just have the meeting minutes and accounts payable right now. Second public hearing for the budget, and then discussion of the budget and the presentation from Ms. Hassert on the budget materials that council has received this evening. Also then the 6-year capital improvement plan presentation. And that's all. That will be a heavy meeting, obviously, since it will be all about the mayor's recommended budget.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for Ms. Knight? All right, saying none, we'll go ahead and move on to the city administrator report. Deborah?
I've already covered the Legislative Affairs Committee meeting move and the Finance Committee and Human Resources Committee cancellation. Did want to give kudos though to Becky, Greg, Rich, and the rest of the senior leadership team and staff who worked to put together this year's budget. I think it really is a step up in the materials that are being provided as a part of that budget. So thank you to the entire staff that's with us this evening. I think I see Greg is online as well. So kudos to that group. It's a really great document. Hopefully you'll have an opportunity to crack it open and take a look at it in the next couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. All right, Mayor's report, just a couple of items. First, last week I attended the Snoqualmie Valley's Government Association meeting. This is the association of cities that include Duval, Carnation, Snoqualmie, Issaquah, and North Bend, in addition to the Snoqualmie tribe. There were the Snoqualmie Valley Governance Association included people who are representatives from the 3 different legislative districts that intersect this portion of East King County. I do attend those meetings because there are similarities and including similar issues that we encounter here in Monroe, and we are at the north end of the Snoqualmie Valley. So for me, it's a natural to attend those meetings. So they did have representatives from 3 legislative districts present. They had a presentation from 3 police chiefs expressing concerns around laws that were changed following the Blake decision. As you're aware, when the Blake decision was made a couple years ago, the decision was made by the Supreme Court of the state during the legislative session. The legislators at the time made a quick fix to the laws to try to address the concerns raised by that state Supreme Court decision. As everybody's aware, there have been issues related to those amendments that were made to state law. With all that said, the state law is set, those changes that were made is set to expire next year in 2023. So there is a need to revisit those laws and make modifications as the state legislature would deem necessary, and then readopt things into state law, else they're going to sunset this year. So that's one of the reasons why police chiefs and others around the area are expressing concern about these laws, and that combined with the fact that our police force right now, our law enforcement services right now are having difficulties with enforcing some of the laws or operating within the framework of some of those laws. So that's going to be one of the big things that'll be talked about during the legislative session. The legislators did a really good job of listening to the concerns raised by the 3 police chiefs. I felt that the city council members and the city mayors that were there, in addition to those legislators, did a really good job of just having discussions around what those laws meant. So I felt that it was a really good conversation with the Snoqualmie Valley Government Association on Wednesday. Snohomish County Cities then, Councilmember Fulcher and I attended on Thursday night. That was interesting because I had gone from the meeting on Wednesday night with the SVGA to now the Snohomish version of Snohomish County version of legislative agenda setting. So in addition to talking about affordable housing and that House bill that Councilmember Fulcher mentioned earlier, and how funds would be made available for affordable housing throughout the county, the other thing that was discussed was the Association of Washington Cities legislative agenda. And included in that agenda were a couple of bullets related to making changes that I just discussed relative to the Blake decision. There was also another bullet about changing pursuit to make it to reduce the level of crime or potential crime that had been committed to allow for pursuit. So whereas the threshold now is pretty high, the threshold I think would still be pretty high, but it would be lower than it is today, would be the best way for me to describe it right now based on the AWC adopted legislative agenda. They had a couple other items on the agenda, like making certain that they preserve the Public Works Trust Fund, yeah, which is a fund that the state uses to give very low-cost loans for public works projects. And so that was part of the agenda. I kind of forget what the other item was, but the Association of Washington Cities Board adopted the agenda the Friday before. And what was interesting was that the agenda, which is normally adopted, I think, unanimously, was not adopted unanimously this time. One city, and while they did not say the name of the city, I don't know why they said that it was a big city on the west side of the mountains, did not vote in favor of the AWC agenda. And I understand the issues were around the Blake decision and around allowing for pursuits, reducing the threshold there. So anyway, just sharing with you that that was part of the conversation. Well, we're talking about public safety. I mentioned at a meeting last week or the week before that some Snohomish County cities have pulled together a public safety coalition, for lack of a better term. They had a media announcement this evening in Everett that I was not able to attend, as I have family visiting from out of state, and that was planned before this other thing. But I feel that from what I'm hearing, the mayors did a really good job of explaining why they're trying to form a public safety coalition. As I mentioned at an earlier meeting, I will come forward with a request for council to consider participating with some funding in that public safety coalition. They have hired a consulting firm to help out with advocacy around these issues related to public safety, with the Blake decision and pursuits and potentially other things. And so we'll bring forward some more information about that and find out where council would like to land on providing funding for that, for our share of participating in that. Before I move on to the next items, does anybody have any questions for me about public safety with SCC, the Public Safety Coalition, or SVGA? Okay. The other two things that I did last week, which were a little bit different, I mentioned last week that I was going to read Horton Hears a Who to an elementary class, second graders. I did that at Monroe Christian School on Thursday, I think, last week. They had a lot of questions about what a mayor does, including what kind of house a mayor lives in, and what kind of car a mayor drives, and other things that I think second graders are very interested in. There were a couple of questions related to if the mayor makes all the laws, and just so that you all know, I let them know that just like they have moms and dads, I have a council, and I have to go and ask the council if I can make a law. The council has to decide if they're going to approve it, and then they get to decide how much money I get to enforce it. So it's always fun talking to kids and trying to get them to understand that the mayor is not in charge. It's a shared responsibility with 3 branches of government, and that we are all co-equals in informing and supporting and leading this community. So I tried to keep it a little bit less academic than what I just shared with you now, but I thought it was a really good group. And then lastly, Peace Lutheran Church here in Monroe, I was invited to go and speak with them following their service on Sunday. So I met with them, approximately 25 to 30 people. They invited members of the Spanish-speaking part of their church as well. The people that were in attendance had the typical questions about residents who are unhoused. They had a couple of issues or questions that they had about a couple of infrastructure things within their own neighborhoods, including somebody up at Rivmont, Councilmember Scarborough. So we're kind of following up on some of those things. The pastor from the Spanish-speaking component of the church had an interest in meeting with me to talk with me a little bit more about some of the issues that the Spanish-speaking community is facing in Monroe, and also to talk with me about opportunities for volunteerism with people from that side of their church as well. So all in all, another busy week, and I think that's all that I have to report. Does anybody have any other questions for me?
Mayor, I don't have a question, but I did forget to ask the council one thing about the mayor's recommended budget. That was delivered to council via email, but if you would like a hard copy, it's about 134 pages. And you can send those requests to the finance department, to Becky Hassard.
Okay.
And all or part of it. If you just want to see part of it printed, you can do that too.
If you'd like a printed copy right now, go ahead and put your hand up. Okay, I don't see anybody with their hand up. Do you, Councilmember Hassard? I'm just going to go with it. Okay, so if you change your mind and would like a printed copy, please go ahead and email Becky. And Councilmember Hanford, if you're listening to this later, you also can request a copy if you like. All right, anything else, Deborah?
Nope.
All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to discussion items number 8.1, Community Human Services Advisory Board membership. And your name's on this.
Thank you. So the issue in front of the city council is consideration of reducing through attrition the number of members in the community human or on the Community Human Services Advisory Board. When the board was initially established, we had a lot of interest in serving on that board. And over time, it has become more difficult to fill those positions. Most recently, we've actually had issues with establishing a quorum because we have vacancies on the board, but you're still required to have a total of 6 in order to provide a quorum. We currently have 3 vacancies. We did speak with the Community Human Services Advisory Board about reducing the number down to 7, which would be consistent with our other boards and commission. And the current board members were fine with that proposal, which is why we're bringing it forward to the city council for consideration. It would require us to adopt a new resolution. So if we get head nods around the council dais this evening, we can bring that back then as a new adopting resolution. So I'm available to answer any questions that the council might have about this proposal.
Any objection or thoughts? Okay. Okay, I'm generally hearing no objection or support. Councilmember Gamble and Councilmember Fisher, are you okay with the changes? All right, I'm saying thumbs up and head nod. All right, thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
All right, next one is American Rescue Plan ARP award change of scope of work. And I will go to Mr. Hebner. Mr. Hebner, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, sir. Good evening, council members. I will take on the pressure of trying to get us out of here by 8 p.m. this evening. But I wanted to bring forward for discussion this evening a potential program that would allow for ARP recipients to request a change of scope to their project. So tonight is just for discussion, opening it up to feedback from the council of whether we should implement this type of program and presenting a couple of options that we've come up with of how that may be brought together. So for a little background, the council reviewed and approved the proposed evaluation criteria and application process for ARP funds in August of 2021. Under that approved plan, the city formed 3 review committees for each round of distribution of funds. Those committees consisted of boards and commission members that reviewed the applications and submitted the funding recommendations that you all approved in November and December of 2021 and June and August of this year. In July of this year, the city received a request from one of our first round recipients to modify the scope of their project while remaining still within the ultimate goal of the initial application. So this is not completely scrapping what they plan to do, just kind of going about it in a different way. So we did not adopt a procedure as a city when we put together the application process. We didn't adopt a procedure by which an applicant could come forward and request this type of change. So initially, the request was denied. The recipient then asked us to come forward to the city council and discuss and potentially adopt, if you so choose, such a program. So the very general overview of what is potentially to be proposed is that the city would accept requests from ARP recipients for a change in the scope of their project. Once such a request is received, the city staff would schedule a meeting with the original review committee that initially recommended that award to the city council. The request would then be presented to the review committee of whether they wanted to recommend to you approval of the requested change of scope. If the review committee declines to recommend that change in scope, the recipient will still maintain the option of completing the project as initially applied for and approved. So we put together two potential options for how such a program would come together. Option number one would be for the city to set and advertise a deadline by which all change of scope requests would need to be submitted. There's pros and cons to both of the options that I'm going to discuss this evening. So the structure that I just mentioned, setting a deadline, the pros would be that it only requires one meeting per review committee. That could be kind of difficult if, you know, we did these on a rolling basis, trying to schedule multiple meetings with these folks. It also limits the amount of time and resources required by the city to conduct those meetings, bring forward those recommendations to council. The con for that formula would be that not all applicants may be aware of a need or desire to request a change of scope by the established deadline. So there may be some projects that would benefit from this program that may not get in there, at least on a first deadline. So option number two would be to accept and review scope change requests on a rolling basis. The pro would be more accessible to ARP recipients. The cons would be that it may require, as I alluded to a moment ago, those multiple meetings of the same review committees, which could potentially become a burden to the committee members. Would also, of course, increase the time and resources required of the city to conduct that process. Just as an example, we had 30 awards in the first round and 27 awards in the second round. So if we were to accept those on a rolling basis, depending on when, you know, we have potentially 57 recipients that may request a change in scope. So not trying to sway your thought process there, just giving you the extra info to think about. As I mentioned earlier, what we're looking for this evening is feedback and our discussion with the council on should the city adopt a change in scope procedure for ARP recipients, and if so, is there an inclination by the council toward option one or option two? And depending on that feedback this evening, we would either have further discussion at future meetings, or I could bring back an agenda bill for your consideration at a future business meeting. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report on this. I'll turn it back over to you, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Scarborough, go ahead.
Yeah, Rich, do I understand in option one, all requests would be looked at the same time?
So almost. So the original applicants, the original applications were reviewed by 3 different review committees based on the project category that the applicant chose. So all of the review committee or all the requests would be reviewed at generally the same time. Let's assume for a second we get requests from at least one project from each of the 3 categories. That would require 3 meetings of the review committees. So within a matter of a few business days of each other, to your question, council member, yes, they would all be reviewed within a very short time frame.
So would there be a potential in what you just cited is 60 some possible changes?
It would, if we were to establish this type of program, it would need to be available to all applicants. So there is a possibility. Several of the projects have already been either completed or partially completed. So there are potentially, up to 50 approximately projects that may, have a potential for a change of scope either midway through or so forth. So short answer to your question is it would be open to all recipients that have not fully completed their projects and been fully reimbursed at this time.
And are you asking us if we would want to put limitations on the change in scope, i.e. asking for more money?
So that's a great question, council member. Thank you. there would not be an opportunity within this program for the recipient to request more money. It would simply be an opportunity to make adjustments to the scope of the project that was contracted with them and what they applied for, but they would still only be eligible for up to the amount that council has previously approved.
So they may ask to spend the money on something else
Correct.
within that project.
Within that amount that you have already given approval for. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And before we go on to the next person, unless I'm missing something, please let the record note that Councilmember Fisher left the meeting at approximately 7:48 p.m. As everybody's aware, he is working this evening. He's a firefighter and may have been called out. When we see him return, somebody will alert me or I will notice myself and will announce for the record that he's back in the meeting. Thank you. Councilmember Fulcher, go ahead.
Rich, do we currently have a time frame in which these people are working? Like, is that what you were going to say too? I knew that. So like, are they given a year to spend these funds? What is the, what's the idea there?
So the contracts that have been executed so far, unless the recipient themselves gave a timeline that would be earlier than this, the completion date that recipients are given to complete their projects is October 1st of 2024. The city has until the end of calendar year 2024 to encumber the funds in some way, and then through the end of 2026 to spend them in the manner in which they were encumbered. So we as the city have told our recipients, you have until October 1st to complete your project. Any amount that is not completed by that point, the city then, that amount would be, for lack of a better accounting term, and feel free to kick me under the table, but that amount would basically then be credited back for the city to encumber to another, as a city priority by the end of 2024 and spent by the end of 2026.
Okay. So we all work in the public in some manner or form, and we understand that the needs are constantly changing. So I think this is a good idea to allow for people to be able to change their project. And I think it's perfectly reasonable to even cut that time frame in half and say, you know, within this time frame, you should recognize and you should have the ball rolling. And if there's something that you see needs to change, certainly let's make it work differently. But I do like the option one. And so I think that, yes, let's allow for it. But let's not allow them to, you know, modify and then, hey, you modified, so I want to modify next month. And so, yeah, this is a great idea. I think getting this into our next allotment is good planning.
All right, thank you. Yeah, and Councilmember Fulcher, I heard you say option one.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Kinney, go ahead.
So I had the same question as Councilmember Fulcher about the timing, and that was answered, so thank you. I'm just curious, is this a common situation? Are we seeing this with a variety of applicants, or is this just trying to ascertain if this is a, you know, pretty common situation that we're finding with applicants?
Great question. Thank you. It has not been so far. We've only had one formal request for change of scope. But that has been something that Mr. Pyland and I have shared with the recipients is, you know, you applied for the funds under this structure that you put in your application. That's what we're contracting for. So far we've only had one that has asked to do their project in a manner other than what was applied for and contracted. However, you know, once we potentially open this up and make it known that it's available, we may see some more. I'm not anticipating that we're going to get 50 applications, but I wanted to share those numbers of you know, this is how many are out there. I don't anticipate it being something that, you know, a vast majority of the applicants are going to come and ask for.
Right.
But to Councilmember Scarborough's point earlier, once we've established the parameters of the program, it would be something that any recipient would be eligible to apply for.
Okay. And, you know, my question also about the timing was how long do they have? And it sounds like it's a pretty long stretch of time.
Yeah.
And things do change, especially with businesses. So I totally agree with Councilmember Fulcher on that. Is it possible for you to kind of give us an example? Well, you don't have to use obviously the actual request, but I'm just trying to get my head around what this might look like.
So one example that has been that would come to mind would be if a nonprofit agency that was doing work in the field of trying to provide transitional housing or short-term housing for residents that are experiencing issues of being unhoused. We've had several recipients that are doing that either through relationships with hotels, for example, or pallet shelters, or wanting to set up safe parking, communities within Monroe. So there's one primary goal there of providing transitional housing, and there's different ways that different organizations are thinking about addressing that issue. So if one of those organizations came to the city and said, hey, we still want to, the ultimate goal is to provide transitional housing, but we applied to do it this way, and now we want to do it this way.
Okay.
That's kind of what we're thinking. We're not looking at it as an organization could come and say, hey, we applied to do this, and for the same money, now we want to do this.
Right.
The anticipation that we as city staff were having was that this would be more of a tweak than an upheaval, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And I would add really quick, Councilmember Fulcher, you mentioned a preference for option one. It doesn't have to necessarily be a one shot only. To Councilmember Kinney's point about the amount of time, it could be, we establish this program, we'll take applications through the end of the year, and we see how many we have. And then if we feel like there's a sense that there's a continued need for this, it could be opened up again next year for, applications are due by April 30th. Just as an example, right? So it would limit the number, the resources and the number of meetings, but could still potentially be available more than once.
Right. And that was basically what I was asking, because it does cost us resources and time, and staff time.
Yeah.
So is it really, is the need there, or is this just a one person request? And I'm also curious if you've investigated whether other cities are handling it this way. Are they opening it up and allowing for these changes to be made?
I have not done that level of research yet. This is a relatively new request that's been brought forward. But I'd be happy to talk with some colleagues and see if that's something that other cities have been doing, and I could bring that forward when I bring forward a motion for action and have that available with additional information.
That would be great. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
All right, Councilmember Davis.
Yeah, I'm in favor of this change. And I think that speaking to the whole idea, I think a lot of these awards were pretty simple and straightforward, and will probably go through and finish that way. But I think there's also that opportunity, and we've already seen it with one group, that there are some things that they would have changed if they could. And I don't have a problem with us adjusting and working around that. And that goes for everybody that was awarded, if they have that if they have that need. Many of them I don't think will, but there may be a few of them that do. And it's worth looking at it and making some fine tuning changes. So I'm for it in that respect. Actually, I think the rotating, or the second, what was it? The second.
I kind of referred to it as a rolling basis.
Rolling basis.
Yes.
I think that's probably would be the easiest way to go, because it just seems to me that gives more opportunity for people to get the word.
Sure.
And then once they get the word, go, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that's something I want to look into, or no, I'm not interested in it. If we do it in a one-time thing and they miss the deadline, then again, we're back in the same boat again. If we have that rolling, I think people find out about it, it gets out there, and then there's another opportunity to do it. I don't think there's going to be that much business, basically, a large number of people coming back and saying, we'd like to expand that scope on that. So I don't think it's going to be too burdensome. And I think it would be an opportunity for everybody who may be thinking about it or may be interested in it, formalizing that, and then coming to us at maybe a later date that's more comfortable or works better for them. I think a lot of this is over the time, the dust is kind of settled, and people who have applied for something based on earlier knowledge have had a chance to look at it and may want to make those adjustments. So I'm all for that. And I think the rotational or the rolling basis is probably the best way to accommodate them to get this adjusted. So just my thought.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Davis. Councilmember Gamble, you haven't weighed in on this. Do you have anything that you'd like to add? No.
I thought I hit unmute.
Oh, okay. Becky said you said that you owe us all drinks. So on the mic. Go ahead.
I'm fine with either option, to be honest with you. I'm not. There's pluses and minuses to both, so.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So I'm hearing sort of a consensus for option one, but I'm hearing a willingness for option two as well. So what do you need from the council at this point?
The thought that I had as Councilmember Davis was explaining his thought is it could be a bit of a hybrid where maybe every 3 months, there's the deadline at the end of 3 months. If we don't get any applications in that time, we don't need to have a meeting, but a little bit of a hybrid of both. That was the thought that occurred to me, and I'm open to hearing from council if that sounds good, and then I can put together an agenda bill for the next business meeting if there's general consensus around that, sir.
Okay, so just generally from an operational standpoint, I am concerned that that somebody could come in on a Friday and ask to make adjustments to it. You convene a group to review material in 2 weeks. The group meets, and right after that group meets, somebody else comes in, and then you've got to convene the group again. So I can see some benefit to having some predictability that we're going to do it once a month or once every 2 months or something like that. That's again, I just think about convening a group of people and reviewing material. So I could see a benefit to having some sort of a time frame. And even if the council were to say a time frame of October 31st this year, just coming up with a date, it doesn't mean that the council couldn't authorize doing it at the end of every month, or just we're going to do it October 31st, and then if we get requests again in the future, we can go ahead and say, yes, we'll do this in January or something. So
absolutely,
I'm just throwing that out there to the council as you're thinking about it. I think that what we're looking for here, I think, is just some predictability from the staff and convening this group of people, and maybe every 2 months might be a way to do it. Councilmember Fulcher, nope. Okay, sounds good. So I think what I'm hearing, since there's like nobody committed option one or option two, staff will go ahead and look into Councilmember Kenny's question of what are others doing, what are other cities doing, and then come back to you with a thoughtful idea on how to administer this program. So I appreciate the staff thinking about this, and I understand that things can change. I also understand that the money is not owned by the organization that has received it. It's reimbursable. And if conditions have changed and they want to do something radically different, then maybe at that point in time, some of the funds ought to go back into the pool. And maybe in a year from now, there might be enough in the pool for people to come in and apply for the money that's not being used or wasn't used. So I could see if they're going to radically change the scope, that might be more appropriate for a later date. So. All right.
Good.
We are up at 8:04. You broke past 8.
I failed.
I know, I was talking for part of that. Did you have anything else?
That's it, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, council.
All right. Is there anything else from staff this evening? All right, there's nothing further this evening. If there is no objection, we are adjourned. Pause. We are adjourned. Have a great evening.